Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Fantasy Fangirls podcast, where two sisters dive deep into beloved fantasy lore, character themes, series, and more.
I'm Lexi, older sister and fantasy lore nerd.
And I'm Nicole, younger sister and romantic at heart.
And today's episode highlights one of our favorite reads of 2025, The Serpent and the Wolf. This episode will also include everything you need to know before the sequel, The Wicked and the Damned, releases on February 26th. We're so excited!
And we have an extra special guest, the author Rebecca Robinson, joining us at the end of this conversation for a special Q&A.
First things first, listen up for our spoiler warning because it is very specific this episode. This episode is split into 3 parts. Part 1 has no spoilers for Serpent and the Wolf. So if you have not read Serpent and the Wolf, this part 1 is safe for you to listen to. In Serpent and the Wolf, there's a lot of politics and moving pieces. So that's why we're starting with a quick fantasy fan guide for Serpent and the Wolf to lay that foundation for you. Then parts 2 and 3, where we're discussing everything you need to know before The Wicked and the Damned and our interview with Rebecca Robinson. It does include spoilers only from Serpent and the Wolf. Obviously, we are not going to have any spoilers for The Wicked and the Damned, except any teasers that Rebecca has specifically shared herself. Full disclosure, Nicole and I have received the arc for The Wicked and the Damned. However, neither of us have fully read it. I did read a few chapters before we knew we were doing this episode. I stopped because then I knew that we were doing this episode, and that wouldn't seem fair. So I've read only a few chapters, but nothing else.
And I've read nothing yet, so I'm very excited.
I can finally read the arc after this.
Finally. So with all of that said, if you do not know why Reed of Moray is top tier book husband material, then you're safe to listen to part 1. And you're welcome for introducing you to him, by the way. But you are not safe to listen to part 2 and beyond, because we are discussing the last chapter, including everything that happens. Holy moly, there's a lot that happens. And don't worry, we will have a big old spoiler warning before we move into part 2, aka Serpent and the Wolf spoilers.
Next, we at Fantasy Fangirls are adults who say adult things about adult books. In other words, friends, this podcast is rated R.
Bondage is in the first chapter. You're welcome. So please be mindful of those little listening ears.
Additionally, we are so excited to see you at upcoming live events. On March 6th through 8th in Dallas, Texas, Nicole and I will be podcast partners at Dreamers and Readers Festival.
Then on April 8th, we are partnering with the Denver Nuggets and Rebecca Yarros for a Fourth Wing themed basketball night at Ball Arena.
Plus, we are so excited to do a live show at the Neptune Theater on April 19th in Seattle. Tickets are on sale now for you to dive deep into How to Train Your Dragon with us. We can't wait!
We will also be attending Fantastique's Starfall Ball on May 29th in Larkspur, Colorado.
And we are coming back to the Dragon Gauntlet Chapter 3 in Boyne City, Michigan on September 11th and 12th.
Check out our website or the links below for more information to all of these events, including a promo code for dreamers and readers.
Last thing before we jump into the Serpent and the Wolf fan guide episode, if you love Fantasy Fangirls and want more events, more content, more community, and so much more, please check out Fantasy Fan Club.
We have 3 membership tiers that you can join, which includes access to our Boppin' Discord, live Q&As, book clubs, yes, like the one we have for The Serpent and the Wolf, early access to ad-free episodes, welcome gifts, and so much more.
Learn more and join the party at fantasyfangirls.com/fan club. The link is also in the show notes. And really and truly, thank you so much for supporting us as we've turned this podcast into a dream come true. It's all because of you.
And now it is time to go under the table together and kick it off with a spoiler-free discussion on what you need to know before Serpent and the Wolf.
So Nicole, without any spoilers, why did you love The Serpent and the Wolf?
This book was campaigned hard for our Fantasy Fan Club book club, and a member was adamant that she knew Lexi and I would be obsessed with it, and it did end up getting voted on for that book club. And unsurprisingly, it quickly became everything I want in a fantasy book. The world is rich. It's 3-dimensional. You can feel how much work Rebecca did in putting into, here's how trade works, here's how politics work. Oh, it's so vast. It's so good. Then we have the characters. Vasa is one of my favorite FMCs I've ever read. She's smart. She's cunning. She's deeply flawed, which we love, but she's very realistic on her own mental health journey. And I just think she's so beautifully written. I have no other words. And then there's Reed of Moray. Oh, he is full stop one of my favorite MMCs. One of my top book boyfriends. I can't even call him a book boyfriend. He is book husband. He's just so perfect. He is really different from other MMCs because we've read a lot of like dark and broody and kind of more, I'm gonna say like leaning towards the like I can fix the asshole kind of a guy. Reed is a teddy bear and he is so kind while also still being sassy and having this beautiful banter. He is my dream. I love a golden retriever. He's great. I also want to do a quick plug because I've actually only read this book as audio. I've read it multiple times through audiobook. Brett's now read it with me. He loved this book. And the audiobook is fabulous. I have never listened to anything by Jessie Valinsky before, and now she's one of my favorite narrators.
Yeah, I think that it's pretty difficult to nail some main characters having accents in books. And the way that this world is set up, it is so rich with languages and cultures and things like that. And it's really well done with these accents, and you really feel those characters portrayed through those accents. I love it. I love it so much. And yes, Nicole, going back to what you were saying there at the beginning, this was one of those surprise book club reads where I went in blind and absolutely fell in love with the story, the world, the characters. Yes, there are a lot of politics and scheming in this book where you do have to pay attention, hence why we are doing this fan guide. Rebecca also has a handy dandy resource that helps us understand how the political system is set up, and once you get it, it's accessible on her website. It's pretty easy to follow once you kind of get all those puzzle pieces there. The rich world building is one of the reasons I absolutely love this book. It brings in economics and geographical resources, political alliances, elections play a huge role in this book, and then exactly what you said about the characters. Vasa and Reed have my heart. Have we mentioned this is an arranged marriage? I don't think we have yet. I absolutely love how Vasa is a political strategist and schemer, and her character arc from the beginning to end is so beautiful. And like Nicole's saying, it feels really realistic. Found family trope for the win in this book. Yes. And absolutely 100,000,000% Reed. He is not a book boyfriend. He is book husband, full stop. These two main characters complement each other so well, and they play off one another for good or for bad, where their scenes just feel so charged with electricity. Obviously, this is no spoilers, but the last 100 pages is phenomenal. I still think about the ending all the time. I had so much fun going through it for part 2 of this episode here, and I just still think about it all the time and truly cannot wait to read book 2.
Yes, yes. All right, friends, now that we have shared our personal thoughts about Serpent and the Wolf, it is time to turn to our no spoiler cheat sheet, aka what Fantasy FanGuide is all about. So let's first offer a foundational understanding of the 3 main pillars of the Serpent and the Wolf story. First up, the world and the political systems. Secondly, how magic works in this world. And thirdly, our 2 main characters. Like we said earlier in the show, have we mentioned this before? This will contain no plot spoilers. Instead, this is information you can reference as you get started with this heavy politics book.
So let's kick it off with the world, because geography and politics are very important for this story. Do you see why I love it? Like, I can't even just contain myself right now. This continent is split into 5 nations. There is Asteria, the largest and theoretically most powerful nation.
While very little is known of our FMC's home of Asteria, we do know that it is ruled by an emperor, and the title is passed down to the living son. If only a daughter exists, then the title is passed to the daughter's husband. This is very patriarchal society, Asteria. Asteria was once ruled by our FMC's father, Andre Kozar, a deeply ambitious man, also very, very cruel. It's okay, he's now dead. With the help of his closest advisor, Ozik, Andre conquered most of the continent, which is why Asteria is fucking giant on the map. In present day, Asteria is ruled by Andre's son, Dominic, who is Vasilisa, our FMC's younger brother. He's a dick, to put it mildly.
Another thing to note, Asteria is not friends with Icaria. They are enemies, and Asteria is on a conquering mission.
Speaking of Icuria, let's talk about that next nation. This is where we spend the majority of our time in book 1. There are 6 city-states that make up Icuria, and each has what's called a foreman, which is equivalent to like a U.S. governor or a mayor of a big city.
The foremen of each city-state are elected differently based on their region, and they have different term limits. For example, in Moray, they have 5-year terms, and in order to be selected, they have to win a tournament of strength and wisdom. But then there's Roltho. They have a 10-year term, and in order to be selected, you have to survive a fight to the death. Very different methods there. So that's the basics of the individual city-state leaders, aka foremen. Now let's introduce the headman position, which is similar to a U.S. president. Each city-state and their foremans answer to this headman. The headman is responsible for the overall decisions of Icuria and serves for a 10-year term. How does one become the headman? I'm so glad you asked, because it's actually very important to our story. The headman is elected from a pool of the current 6 foremen. So in order to become a headman, you must first be a foreman. Only actively serving foremen are eligible to run and serve for the headman 10-year term. And the election is decided by the 5 previous foremen who ran for headman 10 years ago but lost. They became counselors to the current headman. These counselors are deciding the next headman. The capital city-state of Icuria changes to wherever the headman calls home. Like I mentioned, the other 5 foremen that lost the election serve as the headman's counselors and help vote and make decisions with the headman. They are his advisors. Okay, so let's quickly go through these Icurian city-states, as well as what they are known for.
First, we have Dara, which is the current capital, aka where the headman is from. This is the city of scholars and one of the richer cities and is rich in political power. While each city-state in Icuria has a sodality, basically a school, Dara is the most well known. Then there's Iru, which is known for fishing practices, and Seguth, which builds ships and weapons. These first 3 cities all heavily revolve around each other because of resources. So Dara, Iru, and Seguth all very heavily are like a triangle of resources for each other. Next up, we have Hazut, which provides men for military and also food, and Roltho. Remember that city-state that has the wannabe foreman fight to the death? That is Roltho. It's also very similar to Hazut. It provides men for military and food. These 2 heavy military city-states heavily rely on each other. And lastly, but most importantly, because this is where our MMC is foreman, we have Moray, which is known for salt. Moray is a rich city. Everybody needs salt and has more political power alongside Dara.
So if you have any takeaways from this as we discuss resources, Moray has salt. Salt is essential to the economy.
Yes, like literally that is TLDR. Salt
TLDR.
So that is Asteria and Icuria. There are also 3 other nations in this world. We have Zatar, which is a large island to the east of Icuria. We have Sizal, which is a thin nation along the far west side of the continent. And we have Ubithia, which is right in between Sizal and the Goliath Asteria. To be honest, we know very little about Sizal and Ubithia, and they're not really important for this fantasy fan guide.
Okay, so that's the verbal map and politics. Now let's get into the extra fun stuff. Magic! Witches are the ones with magic in this world, and they have their own covens in Icuria. 3 of the main covens or types of witches are the Viraji, which have black mist magic, the Sater, who are gone and used to have deadly dark magic, and then there are the Zahia witches, who can heal. We'll expand on all the covens and their deities in the spoiler section. I'm just trying to keep it simple for right now. The Viraji only have matriarchal lines, so only women can be witches. The Sater could only have patriarchal lines, which were only men, and the other covens both have male and female witches. The magic was passed down to mortals from the deities who once ruled the continent, though no one has seen or heard from the gods since the Icurian unification. Each city-state's sodality in Icuria houses one particular coven. These are places for witches to study safely, to contribute to the literature and research surrounding magic, and to be home for witches who don't have one. Before the Icurian unification, a long time ago, wars between the 6 territories decimated the magical population in Icuria. And long before even the unification, the magical bloodlines ruled Icuria, but they wiped each other out and significantly reduced the witch numbers. That's how non-magical humans rose in power and ultimately united the 6 independent city-states in order to allow for trade and prosperity.
After the Icurian unification, the existing witch covens live under the United Icurian government, which basically means, hooray, you're safe. However, they are able to maintain their own rules and cultures, are secretive about their powers and their knowledge. The witch covens believe that magic is too precious a resource to share, and that it should be studied, but most of all, protected.
So that's what we have for the world of The Serpent and the Wolf. Now we're going to highlight the 2 main characters as our final part of this no spoiler section. First up, we have our female main character, Vasilisa Kozar. She is the eldest daughter and heiress of Isteria. She has been trained by her ruthless, conquering father to be a sharp political strategist. She is cunning, calculated, and very intelligent. She speaks a lot of languages, too. Her father has passed away, and now her brother, Dominic, is the emperor of Asteria. And like Nicole mentioned, her brother is also an absolutely horrible person. Ever since her mother passed away not too long ago, this terrible, dark magic has awoken within Vasa and has been eating her up inside, to the point where it's believed she will probably die from it. She's riddled with anxiety, insecurities, and trauma, and this dark power within her is not doing our poor girl any favors. It's like feeding on all of her terrible emotions.
But next, let's talk about Reed, my man! Reed Kazadin is our male main character, also known as the Wolf of Murray. He is the foreman of Murray. Remember, foremen are the city-state leaders, so Reed is the leader of Murray.
And he is loved by his people, but he's not really one for politics. How interesting for these 2 main characters.
How interesting indeed. It's very convenient that this book opens up on his wedding night to Vasilisa Kozar, the heiress of Asteria. And what a wedding night it is.
And remember, Murray is one of the city-states of Icuria and, well, Asteria's enemy. But this arranged marriage is considered a political ploy for both sides. All right, friends, that is all we have for our no spoiler section of today's episode. If you have not finished reading The Serpent and the Wolf, now is when we part ways. Goodbye, so long, farewell, we'll miss you. Respectfully, please go away. Maybe go check out another episode, go pick up this book. Whatever you do, don't listen to the rest of this unless you want to know exactly what happens at the end of The Serpent and the Wolf. I'm going to say this one more time. We are about to talk spoilers. If you do not want spoilers for The Serpent and the Wolf, this is your final warning that now is a good time to stop listening. All right, sounds good. Let's do this. Nicole is about to give us a whole book recap. Take it away, Nicole.
Woo! In the Icurian city of Murray, Vasilisa Kozar, heiress of Asteria, prepares for her plan to escape her arranged marriage to the foreman of Murray, Reed Kazdan. Vasa dons a sexy red nightgown with the intention to ensnare her new husband, murder him in the heat of passion, and nope the fuck out. Too bad she didn't account for her new husband's own fighting skills and the fact that he might not mind being tied up in slightly different circumstances. But bondage aside, Vasa escapes to the sodality in Dara, where she spends the next 3 months studying her curse, dun dun dun, under a false name. And she lived happily ever after. Just kidding. One day, while Vasa is studying in the sodality, news spreads through the library that a foreman is visiting. Welcome back, Reed of Murray. And her hubby has plans. He knows about her, major air quotes, curse, and he knows someone who can help. All Vasa has to do is agree to act as his wife for 3 years. And with a crisp high five and a totally not at all well-matched couple set sail back to the city of Salt, Murray. Reed holds up his end of the deal, taking Vasa to meet the High Witch of the Viraji, Melusina, who he conveniently forgets to mention is his mother. But that little detail aside, Melusina and the other Viraji witches help Vasa realize the truth. She is not cursed, but has Viraji witch magic in her veins. And with a little faith, a little trust, and hold the pixie dust, they teach her how to harness that power. Training montage! For the next 2 weeks, Vasa Vasa is running 2 miles a day and spending countless hours learning the limits and dangers of her magic. But after 2 weeks, just running around isn't quite doing it anymore. Vasa needs something more, like sparring perhaps? Her opponent, Commander Kasana herself. Face down, ass up. That's the way she liked to what? Get her ass kicked. That's what. Vasa's not looking so good. And Reed is pissed.
That is a very different with the lyrics there. I mean, I know it from my old days.
Reed is pissed that his new wife is pummeled by his commander. But who could be upset when it leads to a "who did this to you" moment? Cue swoon! Due to her little stunt of beating up his wife, Reed has Kasana removed from her role and replaced with the one, the only Asoti, aka Kasana's wife. That's gonna be one awkward dinner. 3 weeks later, things are going surprisingly well, and the politics are politicking. Vasa and Reed find themselves in a surprise meeting with the counselors. That night at the villa, Vasa's emotions get the best of her and her power explodes, cloaking the area around her in darkness. Don't worry, Vasa, you're not the only one who's lost control. At least you didn't level a building. Cough, cough, Amelie, cough. After not dying from her accidental magical induced blackout, Vasa finds herself bonding with Amelie, making her first official friend in the coven and ever. But the time for sunshine and rainbows is over. The day has finally come for Dominic, Vasa's not so large but very much in charge brother, and the Emperor of Asteria to visit. Reed, with the help of Vasa, navigates political discussions with Dominic with ease for the most part. Dominic is laying the stones for his own plan and is trying to force Vasa into helping. Dun dun dun! Vasa helps get her husband elected as the headman of Acuria. Dominic uses that to establish a, heavy air quotes, trade route, and within the year, Vasa gets her freedom. The Delulu is strong with this one, if he thinks that's going to work. Reed, Vasa, and Reed's trusty advisor, Mathgen, board a ship to the capital, Dara, for the headman election. Not long into their journey, shit absolutely hits the fan. They get ambushed by Roltho soldiers. But wait, why are they speaking Asterian? That's a problem for later. Reed is tied up and Vasa's about 2 seconds away from becoming a widow. Unleashing her magic, Vasa knocks the Asterian general unconscious. Did we also mention that's her cousin? But on a brighter note, finger bang, fingery bang. I said, you're not sleeping on the couch tonight, Reed. Bang! In the city of Dara, the political chess is well underway, and every foreman is playing their part, some backing Reed, others working hard against him. Speaking of working against him, during their trip, Reed participates in a fighting tournament, in which, during his match against the foreman of Rutho, an oily black beast materializes and kills, not the foreman, but instead Vasa's cousin. But something about this creature is familiar. The remnants of its magic are the same as when her mother died, or should I say, when her mother was murdered. After the attack, a group reconvenes at the High Temple in Dara. Turns out that oily beast is called a Mirodag, a creature that only belongs to a Zatir witch, one of the different witch covens. Also, the witch coven that no one has seen in centuries. Le gasp! This wasn't a random attack, but a planned one. And the foreman of Rultho, Ton, blames Vasa as the culprit. Ignoring the impending political war, Vasa and Reed sit down and have a heart-to-heart. He wants to amend their agreement, removing the time limit completely. Reed wants as much time with Vasa as he can get. Oh, and bang, bang, bangity bang. I said, can you be my husband too? Bang! Nah, I love him. Sadly, not everything can be full of satisfaction and ecstasy. Amelie is missing. But in her quest to find her friend, Vasa is knocked unconscious. On the bright side, she found Amelie and discovered the traitor. Huzzah! Downside, it's Reed's trusted advisor, Mathgen, who is working with Dominic to start a war. Using Amelie as leverage, they force Vasa to write a letter to Reed. But Vasa's limit has officially been reached. Using her magic, Vasa snuffs out her brother's heir before going all off with his head. Die, Dominic, die! But remember that letter that they forced her to write? Well, it's a good thing Reed's not an idiot. And it doesn't take long for him to read between the lines and figure out that something is very, very wrong. But there's one more twist waiting in the wings. Remember that oily beast, the Mirodag? The Satyr witch controlling it is Ozic, Dominic's closest advisor. What dismantle the establishment Kool-Aid are the advisors drinking? Homeboy has been busy making bargains in secret in an attempt to claim the Asterian throne. Ozic uses his magical oily monster to kill Reed in an attempt to force Vasa's hand. And it works. Vasa agrees to a bargain with Ozic. She surrenders her magic to him in exchange to renew Reed's life. 1 week later, when Reed finally awakens, he learns what Vasa has done. But also, congrats, my guy, Reed. You're the new headman-elect. And with Dominic gone, and as Vasa's husband, you're also the Emperor of Asteria. But none of that matters, because where is his wife? It's time to get his wife back.
While we discussed in the no spoilers section about why we love this book, please don't mind as we share our very spoilery reasons now as well. The care that goes into this world building truly is next level, and yet the biggest standout of The Serpent and the Wolf is Vasa's journey. 3 scenes in particular live rent-free in my head a year after I read this book for the first time. One that I know Nicole was about to mention under the dining table, so I'm going to skip over that and let her share, but it's truly so beautiful and I love it. It gives me chills. And then second is the ship scene, where Vasa's anxiety is getting the better of her and her magic is feeding on it, getting dangerous, and she's having a panic attack, and Reed helps her work through it. And his acceptance and support of helping her through her anxiety is a low-key highlight of the book. And yes, in the scene, his methods of helping her unwind include a relaxing finger bang. And then my third favorite scene is really just the whole ending, but specifically when Vasa's shadow wolf forms. This literal embodiment of her character journey, rising up with strength and security and confidence. And Reed is called the wolf, so of course her magic takes a wolf shadow form too, just all. And then after she's forced to frame herself with a letter, she makes a grand appearance walking up to all these leaders, holding her brother Dominic's head and saying to Mathgen, "You're next." I am in my feminine rage era right now. I fucking love this shit. I see this so clearly and I need the fan art.
I could not agree more with everything you just said. And I'll be the first to admit that when I was reading Serpent and the Wolf for the first time, so much went over my head, and yet it still was one of my favorite reads. And then rereading it, you just fall more in love with it. Oh my God. I love an arranged marriage trope. It is one of my favorites. Almost 9 out of 10 times, it is a hit the nail on the head. This is a 12,000 out of 10. Their love story is so beautifully paced. It feels so natural. And Reed, his one-liners of "breathe, wild one," or "dance with me like lovers do," or my personal favorite that skyrocketed him up into my book boyfriend or book husband, whatever, top list was, "What do you need to be okay?" Oh my, I remember Brett and I were reading Serpent and the Wolf and we were listening to it, and Reed said that, and Brett stopped what he was doing and turned to me and he was like, "That was inspiring." And he's used it a few times since.
I love Reed so much.
So good.
And then just the way that Vasa wears his shirts to bed, that's another one of my little micro tropes that I absolutely live for. And when he realizes she does not wear anything underneath, like their whole, like, who's sleeping on the couch, who has blankets, who, like that whole thing throughout the first, 2/3 of the book or something like that is absolutely hilarious.
So good. But it's not only Reed's lines that give me all the feels. Like you mentioned, Lex, there's this element of this found family trope, and it is a fundamental pillar of this book within the Viraji Witch Coven. Which brings me to the scene Lexi was alluding to that I think about, I kid you not, literally every single day of my life since I've read this book. When the whole witch coven joins Vasa under the table, Vasa is having a really tough moment, believing that her magic is a curse within her, and how this snake that's coiled up within her is like ready to strike, and that she's broken because of it. All of them get under the table with her and share this moment of, "Your strength is my strength." And Lexi and I have a group of friends that, one, shout out to Feminine and Fabled, actually, I'm wearing her shirt right now. She got us all one of her designs that says, it's a table, and then it says, "My strength is your strength" underneath it. And it's to represent that even on our hardest days, they will still hold us up just as we hold them. And God, I just love that scene, because that was one of the first moments that I really felt this true kinship. And like I see our friendships represented on the page in this scene. And I just cannot read this scene without weeping uncontrollably. And Rebecca Robinson's writing just makes it feel so real. I remember in our book club with her, she mentioned how that scene, she was weeping when she was writing it, and it had very little edits, actually. Like, it was one of those scenes that she wrote as a first draft, and almost, I think she said like 90% of it made it into the book, which is insane. It's insane.
It really is insane.
Yeah. I am so in awe at how Rebecca Robinson's writing makes us feel things so deeply, which is another reason why this book is just one of my tops.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so now let's get into everything we need to know from where Serpent and the Wolf leaves off as we head into Wicked and the Damned. I want to go back to the magic system now that we're in the spoilers section and go into a little more detail because I think this is going to be very important for book 2. It's my understanding that magic is believed to mostly be in Icuria. It's not in Asteria. And remember that each of the covens are very secretive about their kinds of magic. They do not work together or share knowledge with the other covens. Let's list off the members of the Viraji coven that Vasa is part of in Marae, her found family, and the animals that their black mist magic forms. So first we have Melusina, the High Witch of Viraji. She's also a sage. She is very powerful. She's also Reed's mom. So yay, it's Vasa's mother-in-law. And we know that her magic takes the form of a horse. Next up we have Amalie, a younger witch who becomes Vasa's best friend. Her magic started as a cat that would not retreat its claws, and now it has manifested into a fox. Then we have Suma, whose magic takes the form of a hawk. Marina has a prowling tiger. Romana, a small bear. And of course, we have Vasilisa, whose magic at first presented as a snake, and now as she comes into her own, it manifests into a wolf. Viraji magic, named after the goddess Viraji, is generational. It's passed down from a mother to her eldest daughter. However, it only passes upon the witch's death, so witches only receive their magic after their mother dies. This means most Viraji witches do not inherit their magic until later in life, when they are more mature and better equipped to handle the new powers that can feel all-consuming when it's activated within them. Age does not dictate how powerful a witch is, but experience does. The longer a witch has to master the magic, the more powerful a witch she'll end up being. This is why Vasa and Amalie are expected to be a very powerful duo. They are young and have many years ahead of them to sharpen their magical skills. The Viraji magical powers are a black mist, a force of raw power. It can smother air and light and sound. So now let's shift our attention to other witches and their covens and magical abilities. While magical abilities differ, all witches are plagued by the same issue, only one living witch in the bloodline at a time. But unlike Viraji witches, other magical abilities are not as deadly of a force when they manifest, and it's more likely that these other witches will survive when the magic is bestowed upon them. The magic that pulses through Icuria, where these covens reside throughout the 6 city-states, is said to come from the deities themselves. Viraji was the goddess of witchcraft, which is where the Viraji witch's black mist magic comes from. The goddess Viraji had a love affair with Satar, god of language and writing. I find this so interesting because that's what Vasa is especially good at, language and writing. But I'm flagging so we all remember heading into the sequel, especially with Melusina saying that this is about a wrong committed many, many years ago, and one that the goddess Viraji intends to right. This is not just a war for mortals. I think the goddess Viraji wants to get revenge on something that happened to Satar, her lover, and Zatir is the one who wronged them.
Yes, there is a god named Satar, which is Viraji's lover. That is Setar, and Zatir is Zetyr. Little confusing, but I just wanted to spell that out just so people can visualize.
The other witch covens are not only made up of women like the Viraji witch magic. So both men and women can be witches gifted their magic from the following deities. So there is Una, who is the god of history, justice, and wisdom. Their coven is located in Dara. No wonder they have the greatest library of all of them. The Una are the only coven that Viraji have been close to, and they do share some secrets with. And the Una have have the magical power of light manipulation. Then we have the god of iron and ore, Imros. This coven is housed in Saguth, and their magical power is manipulation of metals. So they're the ones who create those very precise weapons and well-crafted boats. Moving on, we have Zohar, the god of tides, and their coven is housed in Iru, and they have the magical ability of, you guessed it, moving the tides. Next, we have the goddess of life and healing, Zuhia, who is a consort to Umir, the god of peace. The Zuhia coven is housed in Roltho, which I find very interesting because Roltho is known for its aggression and fighting, and their magical power is healing. So I guess maybe it does make sense because they're always getting all cut up there, so they need the healers. So with all of these magical abilities that the witches in different covens have, I think it'll be a big plot point for the Viraji to bring the covens all together, to work together against the bad guy, especially as they are already setting out to go to the other covens in Ikuria's city-states for Book 2. Speaking of which, there is one more coven where the magic is only passed down in the paternal bloodline. In other words, only boys can be Zatar witches. So Zatar was the god of bargains and souls. Ooh, how scary. He was the consort to Unir, the goddess of war. Zatar magic is thought to be gone. It's a dark, deadly magic, but Zatar can only bargain the use of their power. It cannot be willed without a trade. So examples of wielding this power that is fueled by bargains are summoning demon-like creatures, the Mirodag, and that magic is stemmed from making a bargain. The Zatir witches' methods were awful and twisted. They could even conjure illusions and pretend to have magic they did not truly possess.
So now that we have a good foundation of the magic systems, the worlds, all these things, we have to discuss the crazy last few chapters and where everything left off for our key players in the lead up to The Wicked and the Damned. Because my oh my, the chess pieces completely changed at the end of this book. Let's start with the Mathgen Dominic betrayal and the war that they're looking and itching to start. Using Amelie as bait to entice Vasa into their clutches, Mathgen reveals himself as working against Vasa the whole time, which leads us to a bad guy villain download. Mathgen, Reed's most trusted advisor, hates what Vasa represents and her heritage of being Asterian. Many years ago, Mathgen's granddaughter, his daughter, and his wife were all slaughtered by an Asterian soldier. And Mathgen begged Mark of Moray, who was the foreman before Reed, to go to war over this act of violence. And Mark basically said, it's not worth it. And now Mathgen sees an Asterian woman gaining power in Moray, possibly in all of Ikuria, and he's like, fuck no. So why not just kill Vasa? Because he sees this as his ultimate opportunity to start the war he wants. He is forcing Vasa to write a letter to Dominic, air quotes, betraying Ikuria, detailing the route that the Ikurian army would take that Reed and Ton, the foreman of Rutho, agreed upon just a few days earlier. And that letter that is going to be written in Asterian, addressed from Vasa to Dominic, will be intercepted and brought to the Ikurian government, which will not only start a war between Ikuria and Asteria, but it will also cost Reed the headman election and probably give it to Ton instead. I think about because they would see Ikuria as going to war, it would make sense to have a foreman move up to headmanship who is from a city-state that is experts in war. But this was not only Mathgen's idea. No, it is also Dominic's. They had a deal, you see. If Mathgen brought Dominic Vasa, Dominic would then kill the general who murdered Mathgen's family. But what Mathgen doesn't understand, or might not just fucking care about, is that Vasa, more specifically Vasa's husband, is the greatest threat to the Asterian emperorship. If Dominic dies, or cough cough is murdered, then it is Reed who becomes emperor of Asteria. So Dominic wants to get his sister off the board, meaning no one can threaten his rule. This is where Vasa throws out her magic. Remember, for the vast majority of this book, her magic has been a point of shame for Vasa. She grew up thinking this serpent-shaped, misty blackness was a curse. And when she learned from her fellow witches in the coven that all of their Viraji magic started out as a different form, but then they unlocked it and it took different shape, this is when it became a companion to them. And that's why, in this moment, facing off against Dominic, Vasa's serpent officially becomes a wolf. pause, a round of applause for Rebecca Robinson, because this whole book, I was thinking the serpent was Vasa and the wolf was Reed. What you're supposed to think. But then to learn that the wolf is actually what represents Vasa all along, fucking chef's kiss.
So the title of the book is literally Vasa's two selves.
Yes.
And it really is literally an embodiment of her character journey from the beginning, when she was a serpent, when she just felt like a political tool, to the end, when she was embracing her love for the Wolf of Moray, when she was finding her own power, when she was finding her bond, her wolf pack. Yes. She has a wolf pack.
Yes. This is the FMC empowerment journey that just makes me weak at the knees and weep. All of this to say, the wolf kills Dominic, wiping the Emperor of Asteria off the board. Yes!
And Vasa finally gets to take her revenge out on him.
Thank
God.
God.
I love this shit. So that's the Mathgen betrayal and Vasa coming into her power to take down her brother. The letter Mathgen made her write to seem like a traitor to Reed, it did not work. He saw the final line that Vasa wrote, and he recognized it as her code that she is being framed. He picked up on that immediately. Vasa and Amelie come back to where everyone is gathered for the election in this main quad. And this is when shit really hits the fan. Because Ton of Roltho, the bloodthirsty foreman competing against Reed for the headman position, is also in cahoots with the bad guys of Asteria and Mathgen. It's a coup! Men in Roltho attire flood the main quad. The Rolthos are fighting against their fellow Icurian city-state people. It's a huge fight with the witches using their black mist magic. Ton is killed! Yes! Mathgen is killed by Reed! Double yes! I also just love how he's like, I need to be the one to do this. Like, this is so fucked up of my advisor.
Oh, he goes like full like nail, I'll rip your throat out with my
This
teeth.
is for my wife. This is for my
love
father.
it.
This is for my people.
But the twists, they're not done twisting because it's time to get into Ozic and his big reveal at the end. Up on the platform in this quad, where all the foremen are, jumps in a Mirodag. TLDR, a dark magical beast only Zatir witches can cast. Remember, Zatir witches have not been seen in a long, long time. And it is revealed that Ozic, a long, long time Asterian advisor, is a Zatir witch. We've talked about Zatir witches and their magic, but because of how big of a deal this is and how we are absolutely seeing this as a huge part of next book, this is worth rehashing. Zatir witches have dark magic, but to cast it, it always comes at a cost. A bargain must be struck, and a demon manifests off that bargain power. Ozic's manifestation is a Mirodag, much like how we see Vasa's as a wolf's or Amelie's as a fox. So remember, these dark manifestations only happen because of bargains. I'm assuming this is from the bargain that Dominic and Ozic have bargained, but it has not been fulfilled yet. We don't know what that bargain is, but I'm assuming that's why this particular Mirodag manifested.
Let's ask Rebecca that, because I think that you and I actually had some different takes on this, and I'm very curious to see what she thinks, because I was under the impression that this Mirodag might be a culmination of all these different bargains that Ozic has been making over the years, or specifically like more recently as they are like on the attack. Yes, I know that you're saying there with Dominic, but with Dominic dead now, yeah, let's ask Rebecca.
Let's ask that, because we do not know the contents of the bargain between Dominic and Ozic, or I should say the most recent bargain between Dominic and Ozic. I am assuming, though, it is going to come to light in book 2, and I'm assuming that the bargain, yes, it ends with Dominic on the Asterian throne or his bloodline on the Asterian throne. Because we know that Vasa in book 2 has a new fiance, and I'm wondering if this new fiance is Ozic's son. I don't really remember anything about a son, but then if Vasa's new husband, Ozic's son, they get married, that means Ozic's son would be emperor, aka his bloodline would be, I'm digressing, never mind. Well, we'll talk to Rebecca about
this. This is the one little thing I can't speak to, because in the very few chapters I did read of Wicked and the Damned, I know a little bit more, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut right now.
Fine. Why? now we're on the topic of bargains and their implications for book 2. Let's talk about another bargain that we have heard from Rebecca will be absolutely coming into play in The Wicked and the Damned. Ozick has made many bargains, one of which was with Vasa's mother before she died. The bargain was for Vasa's father's life, so she, Vasa's mother, and Ozick could be together and rule.
Well, yes, they poisoned Andre, the king. I remember it seeming like it was something like the flu or something like that. Yeah.
And like, listen, Andre was not a good dude. But this was not what I was expecting. We know that Vasa's mother was running away from something. Melusina always assumed it was Andre, her husband. But at the end of the book, Melusina's surety in the fact that Vasa's mother was running away from Andre, it's not really as concrete as it was prior.
Yes, so Vasa's mother wanted to ensure her daughter would go to Moray and be trained under Melusina and become part of her coven. Vasa's mother spent time in Moray and was good friends with Melusina. When she left to go back to Asteria, she said it was too late for herself, but Melusina could still help her with Vasa. So that's why she and Melusina secured this arranged marriage. It's their way to get Vasa away from Asteria and to the Viraji witches who will help her. Vasa's great-grandmother was the founder of the Viraji coven, so her maternal roots do trace back here.
But Vasa's mother was murdered, assumably, by one of these Mirodags. I am foaming at the mouth to learn more about this, about the murder, about what she was running from.
I don't think it was necessarily a murder per se.
No.
Because it was also her own magic was consuming her because she did not make good on her end of the bargain. And we still do not know the full story behind this. It's purposefully left vague for us at the end of book 1. But we do strongly assume that Vasa's mother knew she was going back on her bargain with Ozick, and she sacrificed herself to help her daughter get to where she needed. Yes. Since that's part of the bargain magic. If the source, Vasa's mother, went back on her end of the deal, she forfeited her life. The only bargain that we know of is to get rid of the father, get rid of the king. And there's a whole lot more to all of this that we just don't know yet.
I'm dying. I want to know more.
Okay, so that's talking about previous bargains and how Ozick's dark magic works. Ozick purposefully puts Vasa in a position where she cannot refuse making a bargain with him. He has his dark magic demon kill Reed right here on the platform. Yes, Reed is dead. Bad. But you see, Ozick is happy to bring Reed back from the dead with his powerful magic if and only if Vasa strikes a bargain with Ozick. Reed's life is the only thing she would ever consider breaking to Ozick for, and the asshole knows it. The only way to bring our book husband back is for Vasa to surrender her magic to Ozick, and in exchange, he will renew Reed's life. All we know with where this leaves Vasa is that after she makes the bargain with Ozick, once she sees Reed breathe again, she can feel her power leave her, and Ozick and the soldiers put a rope around her neck and cover her mouth and nose with a cloth that smells like poison, and she goes night-night.
Okay, so that's where Vasa's book 1 story ends. Kidnapped and magicless. Not great. Let's talk about Reed, or should I say resurrected Reed. First, Reed's whole goal of book 1 was to be the headman of Icuria. And congratulations, Reed, you are officially headman-elect. Cohen, who is the foreman of the capital Dara, is pissed. And I can almost guarantee that is going to come back into play in book 2. And with Dominic now dead, and as Vasa's husband, that means Reed is now the Emperor of Asteria, which is mighty convenient.
Even if there's no way, Jose, that Ozick will let that be the case.
Not at all, but I'm going to relish in it all I can. But at the end of the day, none of this new political standing matters to him. He has been recovering for a little over a week, and we have quite the download/catch-up from Mama Melusina. We know that while she cannot feel Vasa's magic, she knows it's still there. Yes! Thank God! And she knows that Vasa is still alive. Double thank God. Also, Amelie has gone after Vasa, so she is missing too. And as head of the coven, this causes Melusina a lot of hurt and stress to have 2 of her witches missing. We also know that Viraji, the goddess, not the coven, the goddess, spoke to Melusina for the first time in years. But it was where to find Vasa when she was captured by Mathgen, not where she's been since she went with Ozick. So she can feel Vasa, but it's only pain. immeasurable, immeasurable pain. I'm concerned. Melusina asks 2 very good questions that I am very cautious about when going into book 2. They have Viraji, the goddess, on their side. So then who or what is on Ozik's side? We know that the god of the Zatir witches is Zatir, god of bargains and souls. This is cause for so much alarm. I'm so concerned.
And going back to the god and goddess relationships, the god Zatir's consort was the goddess of war. That's not good.
No, especially if a Zatir witch, Ozik, is working with Rolfo, which has...
Yeah.
That's bad. That's so bad.
That's not good.
Closing out this section for Reed, let's go into his goals for book 2. Overall goal is get his wife back, which is hot.
Where is my wife?
I love a where is my wife trope.
And in the accent that the audiobook has too.
You know I'm starting this book the second this recording is over.
I'm starting Wicked and the Damned.
That's what I'm saying, yes.
Oh, yes.
But with this political power and as headman and emperor, this means going to war. Full stop. I am assuming a lot of the beginning of next book will be him starting a war, getting the moving pieces. But remember, the 2 cities in Icuria who specialize in warfare are Rolfo and Hazut. Rolfo royally fucked over Reed and tried to start a war with Mastion. I don't see him going to Rolfo, even though Rolfo doesn't have a foreman right now. And just them saying, yeah, sure, we're going to follow you, Reed, just because you're headman-elect. I think the fact that he's not sworn in as headman yet is going to cause a lot of political discourse next book. Unless he gets sworn in very early. Don't blink. Some other rapid-fire questions I have going into book 2 are... how are the Viraji witches going to fight back? If we lose a Viraji witch, I don't know how I'm going to cope. I'm so sorry for bringing that up. Oh, God. Also, does Vasa want Reed to find her? Subconsciously, yes, of course she does. She made a bargain with Ozik for Reed to be resurrected. There is bargain magic at play. This is so much more complex than save wife heist because the magical consequences of breaking a Zatir bargain is death. So who would be the sacrifice? I'm like, not to go back to a Viraji witch is going to die next book. I don't know why.
We need some clarification on these. I don't know because technically, as long as Vasa's magic is still surrendered, she is upholding her end of the bargain. And I believe that also has to happen to it is the source. Like there's not a different sacrifice. The other Viraji witches are not going to get sacrificed because of this bargain not working, because it would only be Vasa who would face the consequences. So what I think this could happen is if this bargain is not, I'll say, completed already, because that's kind of what it seems like. If it's not, and there is still an open end, then potentially they could get rid of Ozik. Like, for instance, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but Reed could die again.
Oh my God.
Then he does not have his life renewed. But again, we don't know how that works. So I want to ask Rebecca if the bargain is considered complete and therefore there are no further consequences.
Also, as Melusina states, this is bigger than a war between mortals. This is now gods and goddesses being involved. How is this going to work? I am so excited and so scared.
All right, well, I'm so excited. Let's move on to our part 3 of this episode and chat with Rebecca.
Welcome, Rebecca Robinson, author of The Serpent and the Wolf, dear friend of Fantasy Fangirls, goddess living among us. Hello! Hi! Oh my gosh, it is an honor always to talk to you in any capacity, and just thank you for coming on to the show and talking to us about The Wicked and the Damned and the lead up to this incredible book.
Yes, so
thank you.
How are you doing?
Good.
Okay, let me rephrase that. How are you feeling about the release coming up?
I'm so excited. The Wicked and the Damned, this book, like, it really takes everything that I wanted to build off of Serpent and just like takes it where I really wanted it to go. And this book is like, it's so twisty and it's a little bit darker and it's got like, it's just, I'm just so excited, and I'm so excited for everyone to like really get a good look at all of the things that Vasa is capable of, because there is a lot.
I'm so
I
excited.
just got chills. Oh my God. I'm so
Okay.
excited.
As much as I want to just dive right into talking about whatever morsels we can get out of you here regarding book 2.
Sure.
We're nice, we promise. Let's ask some questions about book 1 and just your journey with writing it and building this world, because oh my God, it's rich. Starting off with your favorite scene. What was your favorite scene in The Serpent and the Wolf, and why?
My favorite scene is when she goes to the stallity and they all crawl underneath the table together.
You mean this one?
That's the one! That is my favorite scene because, like, when I set out to write this book, I knew I wanted to write, like, in the romantasy genre. I knew that for me, I can't quite have my fantasy without my romance, and I can't quite have my romance without my fantasy. But I really wanted to move past just the immediate love relationship. And for me, the writing of the Coven has been, like, one of the most healing and, like, fun and amazing things to do. And so Vasa's journey, especially in that scene, is really powerful. There were hardly any edits that we made to that scene from the conception and, like, from when I wrote it to when it was published. That was the one that we really didn't touch that much because it just flowed. And it was like one of those scenes, I don't know, and it just, I love Vasa's like first true moment of vulnerability. And it's just, I love the scene. I love it.
So when making Reed, what was most important to add about him? Like, I remember during book club, which I can't believe was last year now, you mentioned how it was important to you that he did not have magic. So curious about, like, why that is, and as well as what other qualities were really important, because he is book husband material.
Thank you. So when I first, like, started writing this series, I really wanted to write, like, one of those, like, gnarly bad guys, you know what I mean, who, like, you know, like, I was like really gonna I was gonna do it,
like, but Daddy, I love him kind of,
right?
kind
No,
of
exactly,
yeah.
exactly, because I love to read them, but Reed refused. As a character, he refused. He was like, nah, that's not me, bro. And so there was nothing I could do about it. So as I started writing him more, and especially into, like, editing his character, like, the single most important thing to me was that I wrote an enemies to lovers story that did not involve the male main character, like, abusing in any way our female character, which is not to say that I don't absolutely love to write these male, or listen to write these male characters in a variety of ways. There's no wrong way, right, to do this, but for me, this was the right way. And I just wanted to show that men have absolutely the capacity to be unbelievably powerful without having to be diminishing of women. And that to me was, like, Reed's ultimate thing when I started writing him. And I think that that's what plays into the magic piece. I needed him to be ordinary in that way. I needed him to inherently be in a relationship in which the woman has a leg up. She has something a bit more powerful than him. And it's, you know what I mean? Like, I needed that, and I needed him to still be, like, extremely powerful even so. And I wanted him to just be, like, absolutely obsessed. Like, absolutely obsessed. He's like, she could kick my ass and I want her so much. You know what I mean? I needed that. So Reed is, like, everything. I love him.
What were some of your favorite Easter eggs to put in the book regarding specifically Mathgen and Ozik's eventual betrayals?
So there's this scene that I added later, and it's where Mathgen and Vasa are talking about, like, the economy, right? She's like, all right, let's talk economics, right? Which, you know, believe it or not, that was, like, a very long scene. We did, in fact, talk economics. Eventually my critique partner, bless her soul, was like, Becca, I know that you love this. I know that you love this, right? And I love it because you love it. But as a reader, I do not need this info. I'm like, damn it! Like, Lexi, you're so right.
Sound familiar? You are my spirit writer.
I did. There was so much information. She's like, babe, you don't need to detail the way that the wood is sourced for the ships. I'm like, but I do.
I want to know.
But I do.
Becca, how is the wood sourced from this series? Tell me right now.
No, I can't.
All right.
So that scene in particular, I was like, okay, this scene, because every time that I'm writing, I whenever I go through my scenes, I always think to myself, like, okay, I have, like, it's like a spreadsheet, and I call it, like, my conflict matrix, and I have all of the conflicts that I'm trying to juggle in this book. And then I have all of the scenes, and I have to tick off which conflicts this scene adds to or enhances or moves along. And if I go through, and as I'm going through, if it doesn't tick any of those things, I'm like, damn it, cut your darlings. Like, it's gotta go. It's gotta go. And it's like my very like specific way of making sure that this happens. And unfortunately, this scene just did not tick any of the boxes. It was like ticking the world building box, but I was like, okay, not enough, because you can't just have a scene that world builds. It has to have some sort of movement forward. Yeah. And I was like, okay, wait, but could I put conflict into it? I'm always like, okay, this is actually an opportunity. This scene, what else can I put in here? And that's where the entire conversation with Masjen occurs. And that scene is like nothing but Easter eggs, right? She's like, why does he not have a family? And like, why would he choose to be here? And he says like, it's a balancing of victims, right? Which like, I would consider that quote deeply. And it like, she takes that with her through the entire series. And so it's these moments where you're kind of looking at Masjen like, oh, there's more to him here. Oh, please excuse my cat, who is about to literally get away. He has no personal boundaries. So yeah, that scene it's got so many. And then like the entire scene where Dominic is there and they're going back and forth and they're doing their little like trade negotiations and all of that. And Mathjan is like, he knows what's going on because he speaks Astarion. Right. And so it's like half of that conversation is like, is he having that conversation with Vasa or is he having it with Mathjan? Dominic knows that Mathjan speaks Astarion because Dominic has been communicating with Mathjan. Right. And like Ozic knows. And so it's like this entire conversation that Vasa thinks she's like on top of the world, thinks she's like so freaking clever. And she is, right? But like she doesn't realize like she's getting played in that moment. And it's by somebody that is in the room with them that's supposed to be on their side.
All right. So we got to talk about the politics here, and specifically how much of the political structure, economics, all of that did you have mapped out before you started writing?
I knew Icuria's in its entirety before I even started. Well, okay, that's not true. I wrote the first chapter of the book and I was like, oh my God, I love this chapter. What the hell is this? Wait, what's happening? I'm supposed to be writing another book right now and querying another book. Like I'm literally like days from taking this book out on submission, like what to agents, right? Like I hadn't even had an agent yet. And I just wrote that first chapter and I was like, hold the phone, pause everything.
Oh my God.
We're writing this book. And I could not stop. And so that's when I started building Icuria. I have a like really good friend, like one of my best friends from high school, who is like a world builder extraordinaire, like best person to brainstorm with. He's so fun. And so he came over and we like did the whole thing, and we have a way of doing it. He's helped with every book I've ever written in the world building aspect because he gets my brain and we go back and forth. So we built everything. Once I had Icuria, I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing. Asteria's politics are built a lot more in book 2, and I needed to build that out to write book 2.
Yeah.
We always ask, like, are you a pantser or a plotter? And I'm leaning obviously towards, with you mentioning plotting out Icuria. Or would you say you're in the middle? Would you say you're definitely more of a plotter? Where would you say you lie on that scale?
I'm a plotter, big time plotter. I would even, okay, maybe even I'd say like a plantser, in that I plot everything like to an absolute T. I have to work out the entire world before I can start writing, but I don't work out the entire plot before I start writing. I work out like a little bit of it, and then I write those pieces, and then I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Because usually halfway through a scene, my characters or something are going to tell me a different story. Like, we're going in a different direction. I didn't expect it to go here. I am a discovery writer in the like line version of writing, but I'm definitely a plotter in like the macro parts of writing. So I plotted everything, but then it changed. But I was definitely obsessed with Icuria's governmental style from the very beginning. I knew where that was going. I knew what I wanted it to do. That one was well thought out.
Pivoting slightly to Vasa and her mental health journey that she goes on, specifically in book 1. Going back to the plotting aspect, did you plot out each beat of her emotional journey, or was that something that you really discovered along the way, especially when it came from the serpent to the wolf?
It was a combo of both.
Yeah.
So Vasa started to me as actually, funny enough, it was a therapy exercise. So
I love this.
Wasn't supposed to write a book.
Point. And so I've been really curious to hear this. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a health scare that like really sort of changed the way that I was viewing my own body. I was disappointed in myself. There was a lot happening, and it was a really intense time in my life. And I was absolutely seeking therapy, as I think all people should. And it started out as like an exercise. It was like right about, essentially when I was writing Vasa at the start, it was like low key, all of the things that I was mad at myself for. Like I was putting that, it not like to the details and exact, right? Because this is fiction and we write fiction, but those feelings of self-loathing, which I really think is Vasa's ultimate issue, right? Is that she hates herself at the start of the book. And so I harnessed that, and I was writing this character and writing like dialogue by this character, and not like scenes or anything like that, just dialogue and these sort of thoughts. And it started out as an exercise that was given to me by a therapist. And I kept writing it, and I was like, why do I love this character so much? And then that kind of made me pause and think to myself, wow, if you can love this character, why can't you love you? Like, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's the same thing. And I swear to God, that's what the therapist meant for me to do. I stand on that. I think that was the ultimate goal. I think she like knew. And I think that's so funny. And so yeah, her mental health journey was my mental health journey to a certain degree. And, you know, then I started going back, and I was reading, I have the book actually right here on my desk. Story Genius. Story Genius.
Yes.
Craft book. Craft book for y'all, for anyone who's a writer. Absolutely amazing. And I started really considering the idea of like the third rail and how to write a third rail. And that's when I started really plotting out Vasa's characterization throughout the story. But that was more plot than it really was anything else. So yeah, mix of both.
Well, I know I'm jumping the gun a little here, but when you look at book 2, with no spoilers, how would you phrase Vasa's journey specifically? When I'm like talking like emotional journey.
Regression.
Oh!
Sorry.
I know, it's okay. I'm sorry. I'm laughing. It's just not what I was expecting.
No, it is funny. Yeah.
She was in quite the pickle at the end of book 1, so
Yeah.
girl's got to experience some things. She needs to get back to her boy.
Guilt on your face. Hurt us. I love it when you hurt us. Please do.
It's darker. It's dark. I mean, you know, do you know that like quote that people say that's like character growth is being able to like go back to the same place that made you cry and like learn how to laugh or something like that, which I don't know if I totally agree with that. We went ahead and we just sent her back to the same place. I wouldn't argue she laughs, but that's okay.
oh my God, I'm laughing. Oh God.
It's a series. It's a series.
If I laugh,
hold
I
on for book 3.
Book 2.
I think at one point one of the comments that my agent left in this manuscript, I believe it was just, oh. Oh. Like, yeah. Oh.
I love the sassy editor comments that are just
my
like,
favorite.
Oh, or mine wrote in all caps, suffer.
Exactly.
Oh,
right?
It's so
I
good.
appreciate how her O's went from like oh to like oh to like oh. Right? Like there was
And
so
I
much
love how you
oh
know
happening.
the difference.
Yeah, totally. I knew exactly what she meant.
Probably the reason that she is regressing. Let's talk about the Zeter witches. And I'm pretty sure that Nicole and I were pronouncing it incorrectly before. Now we're talking to Rebecca, so she has helped us understand how to pronounce it correctly. Zeter. Okay, so several questions here around these bargains, and I'll just kind of ask them one by one here. Is number one, what kind of bargains are we talking about? Like, for instance, is there more magic that someone like Ozic gets if he makes like a really, really big bargain versus a little bargain? Or
Does the Mirodak come out as a chihuahua if it's a little bargain? Does it come out as like a nice big
we have
drake
several
if it's-
questions about that as well.
I am absolutely obsessed with the idea of a Chihuahua Miradag right now. That's wild. I'm going to be finishing up book 3, and I'm going to be like, and the Chihuahua was like, bark, 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 bark. Amazing.
Fantasy Fangirl strikes again.
That's so good. Oh my God.
That is so funny. Okay. The Zeter witches. Yeah, I wouldn't say that the magic is any greater or smaller depending on size of the bargain. I would argue, I mean, we're an equal opportunity bargain people here. I feel like this is definitely something that everyone knows in book 1. And it's that, you know, the magic essentially requires a bargain in order for them to access the raw, undefined, unrestrained magic. So they just have this well of power, and it is unrestrained, and it can pretty much do anything, right? Which we learned in book 1. I mean, God, it can bring somebody back to life, right? Like it does all of that, right? But it has to have another person that says, do this.
Yeah.
Right? So that is like the limitation of their magic, is that it is solely dependent on somebody else. So they can do anything.
Yeah.
They've got enough magic, right? But it just has to be willed by another.
I love this. So, okay. So thinking about Ozek in particular is there was a hint that he and Dominic had made a bargain. Is that
Or
what
more
brought
recent
about
bargain.
is that what brought about the Mirdag, or do we know, or can you tell us anything about what that bargain might have been?
I would say that Ozek has a bargain with someone, with a lot of people, arguably, throughout his time on this in this story.
I like how you're
I'm
trying
attempting
very-
to.
Really great. You're doing great.
I'm trying so hard here, guys.
You're doing so
He made a bargain with Vasa's mother, right? We know that he made that bargain.
For Andre's life.
Yes, yeah, Andre's life.
Seemingly to kill him.
right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot more to the story. I would say that, and Ozek says it very clearly that him and Venna are having an affair, right? And I think that lots of bargains are made between people who love each other over long periods of time.
So then let's say when a bargain is completed. So let's take Ozek's bargain with Vasa. She surrendered her magic and then he resurrected Reed. And so is that bargain considered complete now? So as long as she does not have her magic, that bargain is, but then if she gets her magic back, then that could be bad. I am totally asking spoilers at this point. I apologize.
No, I don't think you're getting into spoilers. I think you're getting into wonderful speculation. And I think yeah, absolutely. By the terms that are outlined in book 1, then I think it is totally safe to assume that if Vasa were to take back her magic forcefully, she would kill Reed.
I have one more question about this. Is there any previous bargains that Ozek has made, whether they were impactful or not, that you could share with us?
I can't tell you any, but trust me, bargains, they're like so important. I loved getting to explore that in The Wicked and the Damned.
Pivoting slightly to the gods, us doing rereads or prepping for book 2, which gods in particular should we be on extra high alert for, especially given Melisina's warning at the very end of the book that this is no longer just a war for mortals?
All of them.
Oh, cool.
I have a follow-up question. Are their relationships important? Because some of them have consorts. Like Viraji,
lovers.
she had a love affair with Sitar. And I think that the bad god of the god of bargains, he did something to her love, and now she's out for revenge. That's my theory.
I love it when we say theories right to the author's face, and they're like, yeah.
I love hearing it. Yeah, I would say yes. Every single piece of information that I put in the first book about gods was as I was writing book 2, and I wanted that information to be there. And I had like a word count limit that I needed to stay within. So if I was going to put it in there, like I for sure, I had to be really selective about what I put in there. Yeah, pay attention to them. Their relationships, maybe. But yeah, I mean, mostly I think that it's just super important to understand and recognize that, like the sodalities and the covens, right, and all of that, right? The sodalities are the schools that these people are learning at, but the covens are located within these schools, and they almost act like sovereign and autonomous from the government, right? Like they have their own way of doing things, and they don't necessarily like the government, and they don't like to share, right? And that was made super clear during the election.
And real quickly, that's kind of a big reason why Murray is like the fact that Reed of Murray walked in with his wife as part of the Viraji coven, and how they are behind their government essentially in Murray, and that is kind of a big deal there to have that power of the witches behind them, right?
Yes, and I want you to remember that.
Yes. All right, so everybody, I'm so glad that we kept all the God information in this fan guide.
Oh, thank God.
So if you need to re-listen to that part, apparently it's very important.
Well, I was going to say, we're going to have like a graphic recap at some point, and I'm making a mental note that Gods is its own page on this graphic recap now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good,
I have a spreadsheet. There's a lot that you have yet to meet, but I love a meddling god. I love a meddling, selfish god. And so yes. And I just think it's really interesting how like most of the sodalities are named after the men, but the covens that live in those sodalities and that actually have magic are the women. Which is like really weird that, you know?
Yeah.
There's a theme there.
Ooh.
I like men that don't have powers.
Oh, yes.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
Don't we all?
Can you share more with us about how the witches get their magic from the gods? And I'm going to specifically also ask about, did the gods have a special relationship or connection to each of these Icurian city-states, or what they used to be beforehand, before the unification?
So yes, so the magic is passed down, right, through these bloodlines, okay? The bloodlines used to violently rule Icaria, and they used to violently rule the city-states. The first book tells like a really specific story about Rultho and about that city-state and about how, you know, that's like where Zatar magic sort of hailed from. So it passes down from parent to child. Some of the covens are through the maternal line, some are through the paternal line, some are through both. Just depends on the coven. But the thing that stays true and rings true for all of them is that the magic can only exist in one generation at a time. So the parent has to die, right, for the magic to manifest. That being said, Melusina does specifically say that it can get a little funky sometimes. Sometimes it'll skip a few generations. Sometimes it'll be like, parent died, no magic is inherited. 3 generations later, boom, witch, right? Anything can happen. So she says, and she blames this sort of like on, or attributes this to the god or like deity being very finicky and like not wanting to be done with certain bloodlines. So she says specifically, she should have died, right? Like she inherited her magic on birth. Like that was like incredible, right? And it totally should have killed her, right? But she says, like, I guess Viraji just wasn't done with me yet, wasn't done with my bloodline yet. So yeah, that's how it's passed down, and it is very dependent upon each coven. And each coven has their own way of wielding magic, has their own limitations and their own things going on, but they don't share that information because now that Icaria is united and it's united under a government that is entirely ruled by non-magical beings, right? They and their population has been dwindled so small. I mean, like what? There's like 6 Viraji witches, I think 6 or 7 max, right? It's really similar in the other covens, and so there's so few witches left that they're extremely protective of their magic and extremely protective of their information because, as we know, information's a weapon.
Yep. So one could imagine that if Icaria needs to go to war with, I don't know, Asteria, it would be very difficult to gather all of the witches under a, for example, headman-elect in order to go to Asteria?
Yeah, it would actually be like sacrilegious. Like they simply, their magic, it is against their culture, against their values, against everything to capitalize on the magic for money or for war. The mortals are not allowed to. They can't because that's what's going to kill them. Right? Like if you start turning them into weapons, you're going to send them, you get ambitious men that want to go conquer things, right? And they're going to send their witches out and they're all going to die. And like that's what happened during the Witches' War. That was a lot of what happened is the covens turned against each other. And that's what led to Icarian unification was because the city-states were so violent with each other for so long that it was killing everyone, including the covens, which would probably be the only reason why the covens would agree to give up their political power, right? It's because they wanted to live. They wanted to not be extinct.
Going to the map, we have 5 nations. We hear obviously a lot about Asteria and a little bit about Zatar. Can you tell us about specifically Zatar and the 2 others, and if or when we might see more of them?
Yeah, I would say that if I had 5 or 6 books to write this series, we would travel the world. We would go everywhere. I think that Zatar is important for the purpose of trade, right? Like Reed specifically negotiates, and we talk about this in the first book when they go to that restaurant with the other counselors, right? And they were able to the drought in Rultho and has absolutely just decimated their agricultural population, right? Like it's not happening. In a particularly difficult summer, right? He had negotiated with Zatar, and he would need the counselor's permission to do so. Like he cannot. We learned about that with Ton. Like he cannot negotiate with another nation like without the permission of the council. So we trade a little bit with Zatar, which I've gotten like a little bit of crap online because it's the name of a spice, and I think that's so funny, right? Because I didn't even realize that until I did it, so I had to caveat that. It's just like a silly little nation. I don't know. I don't know. So
don't tempt me with my spice watch, Rebecca. I'm so excited. Oh my god, I love a spice watch.
So yes, but whether or not we'll go there, I don't think so. There was only 3 books. The other 2 nations I would just say are like as a reminder that Asteria hasn't conquered everything yet. That there was still other places that Dominic could have gone. Like, it wasn't like Dominic had to go to Ikeria. And in fact, arguably, it would have been smarter to go towards Cesal or Euthyba, but he doesn't, right? He targets Ikeria. Like, why? You know, and she says that. She's like, why are you doing this? Like, this is so brash. Like, you should have gone somewhere else. And she, like, outlines the entire way that she could conquer the continent. Vass is like, all a day's work. Like, you know? And so, yeah, that's really, like, the important things about those nations. I would say if I had more books, like, I could build that so much.
So now moving fully here into Wicked and the Damned questions, what are 3 very important takeaways from Serpent and the Wolf that we need to remember heading into Wicked and the Damned? I know that you've mentioned several, but like any 3 that really stand out, bits of information we should carry into book 2.
Dominic had questions. He was asking her to answer. And
about their mom. Huh.
Yeah, and she didn't want to answer. And he had questions. And I think it's really important to note.
Is it bad to say I'm almost sad Dominic is dead? I'm not sad.
No, I hear you.
I'm like,
I hear you.
Gone too soon.
Trust me, you'll still have plenty of reason to be angry with this guy.
Oh, good.
Yeah, don't worry. The Dominic hate never stops. Yeah, I'm a Dominic hater for life. So there's a lot of history to the covens and to magic that has yet to be revealed, right? Like, Melusina kept telling Vassa, focus on what you do know, right? Because too much information at once might be a little bit overwhelming. So I would think about that. And, that Vassa has a past. She doesn't have a lot of friends back in Asteria.
All right, I have been patient. I have been so patient. I have to finally ask this question.
I have a feeling I know what it is.
You know exactly what it is. Oh. Rebecca, you
I'm
evil madam, you teased us on social media that you can't wait for us to meet Vass's new fiance. First off, how does it feel to hurt us? And
it feels so good.
Secondly, what can you tell us about this? This was evil.
Yes. So, okay, I can absolutely tell you some information about it because it's on the back of the book, right? Like, this is not spoiler. This is just simply what you have to look forward to in book 2. And because our lovely friends, this is not like a plug, I swear to God. The people over at Cosmo, they released a chapter. So there is a chapter up there that sort of talks about this piece. And it is that, Vassa, she's headed back to Asteria. And Ozic has plans. Ozic is sort of attempting to rule Asteria as like a shadow emperor. That is his plan, right? He wants to rule, and he wants to do so without being the person on the front lines, right? He does not want to be the face of a throne. Because, what's happened to all the other faces of this throne so far?
They dead.
Right, bye-bye. So, yeah.
Tywin Lannister shit here.
Oh my God.
No, exactly. So he is trying to rule in arguably like one of the most sustainable ways we've seen in history, which is to rule by proxy. But for Vassa to take the throne, she has to be married. But like Reed just attacked the border. He's absolutely outside of his marriage agreement at this point. He's shown aggression towards Asteria. That would be grounds for divorce, quite frankly, in Ozic's eyes. Book 2 follows us through the almost like Bachelor style showdown of all the Asterian lords to win Vassa's hand.
So knowing just how many different characters that we already know from book 1, they're all going to different places. They're kind of getting spread out. Can you share with us how many, I'm going to say POVs, although I know that it's all in third person, how many POVs that we will be getting in the book?
3.
All right.
Wait, okay. Vassa, Reed, Amelie?
Ozic.
Melusina?
Ozic.
So I wrote, in between book 1 and book 2, I wrote a novella, and I'm not going to publish a novella. I have no interest in doing that. That being said, that was like a writing exercise for determining Ozic's character. I write a lot of stuff like in the background that's like my you know what I mean? I think a lot of authors do this. Yeah, I wrote this novella, and I absolutely loved it. It wasn't like, maybe like quite long enough to be a novella, whatever. And then I decided, I was like, oh, well, wouldn't it make sense if those chapters were like in the book? Like, this is information that I think I'd want people to know. And that was part of the like 2 books to 3 book joy, was that I actually got to flesh this fully out and have like a really well-rounded like emotional journey and world with a lot of information that I wanted everyone to know. And so you have some of those chapters to look forward to.
I love humanizing a villain. I think it is just so delicious. And I love being like, I don't agree with you, but dear God, I see where you're coming from. That's terrifying. Like, I love that shit. Oh my God.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
So obviously no spoilers here, but which is your favorite chapter and anything that you can share about why it's your favorite?
Some chapters where Vasa is extremely sneaky, and she has to be extremely sneaky, and she does so in one of my favorite like settings that I've ever written, that is like essentially a social club, except everybody wears masquerade masks and costumes so that no one knows who's there.
Oh.
And that's where like a lot of this like backdoor Asterian politics goes down. And so I love a chapter that I get to go there. And that was added after this became a trilogy. And so I love those chapters. And then there is one particular chapter in which Vasa does something that is so deeply morally gray and egregious, and I love her for it. I do. I love her for it. And it like made me like, I was so hyped. I was so hyped as I was writing it. So that's another chapter that I really look forward to people reading.
Okay, other than Ozic, and I'll also throw in other than Vasa, who is a character in The Wicked and the Damned that truly shines for you, and who can you not wait for us to see more of? It can be the same character, or it can be two different ones.
Lord Karev. Can't wait for y'all to meet Lord Karev. And then I just cannot wait for you guys to see more of Ozic. As the big bad of book 1, you hardly ever see him. And that's what I think is actually, that was very on purpose, right? Like, we had a reason, but I think that tells you a lot about him, but there's just so much to know and so much to learn and so much to consider, and everything that you think you know about everyone, you probably don't.
We've got Vasa's journey in one word, which is regression. What about Reed's journey in one word? If it's also regression, I will throw myself off my perch.
Respectfully. Violence.
Yes!
Oh my God!
Like, look, I wrote a good man, but I said it in the very beginning. He is violent, and and like, I know in book 1, you know, it doesn't seem like it because he's like so down bad, but I think that, I don't know if anyone is like crazy like me, but like, I don't know, I am possessive of my man, and I think the whole world is possessive of who they love, and I think he's absolutely willing to get violent if he needs to.
All right, so our very last question for you here, Rebecca. Again, thank you so much for spending time with us here today. So we know that you are currently writing book 3, so the final book of the trilogy, and are there any updates that you can share with us, how it's going behind the scenes?
Oh, it's going. I'm in the 3rd act, and I'm having such a fun time like wrapping up this series. I can't believe that I'm wrapping up this series. I love these characters so much. I know that the third book will not be out until 2027. I can like very confidently say that. And I don't expect that it will be early 2027 either. Just with the way that the pipeline, you know what I mean? Like there's just production and all those things. And we want a good book, not a rushed book.
Yes, always.
You know, always.
And your mental health is like extremely important, and like taking your time is very important. Yeah.
That too.
Sleeping.
And sleep would be great. It's also that these books, like Vasa's story, I do have to I gotta tear myself apart a little bit every time that I write this, and for it to be any good, right? Like, because this story really is like, it is rooted in a journey that I think everybody wants to take, but it requires a lot of me. And so I'm like a method writer almost, you know, like how they have like method actors, right? Like I gotta feel it to write it, and so sometimes that means I gotta feel stuff I don't like to feel. And so but it's going, and it is the 3rd book so far. I'm so proud of it, and it's like just as twisty, and I'm so excited for people to get into like the deep world building that I really wanted to do in book 1, that the characters needed to shine in book 1, and I think they shine in book 2 and 3 too, but there's so much more of this world, and I just can't wait for people to come along the ride with me.
Rebecca, thank you so much for being with us today. You are just a freaking delight. I'm so honored to call you a friend for Lexi and I both. And just thank you for all you do. We love your book. We love your series. We cannot wait.
Yes.
Thank you.
Congratulations. We're so excited for you.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this very special bonus episode, The Serpent and the Wolf, as we get excited about the sequel, The Wicked and the Damned, coming out on February 26th.
In case you're new here, hey, hi, hello, welcome. thank you for listening to this episode. If you like what you heard, please check out our deep dive coverage. We've done the Empyrean series, the Akatar series, the Kindred's Curse saga, and we just wrapped up our Fae and Alchemy coverage as well. Next Monday, February 2nd, is what you've all been waiting for. Our Throne of Glass FanGuide coverage officially begins with episode 1.
Part 1 will be no spoilers for the series, as we do pretty much what we did in the first part of today's episode. We'll lay the foundation for the Throne of Glass world and give a high level of the main characters, with the intention to help people new to the series feel confident and comfortable heading into it. And for those who have already read the books, it's a fun, digestible way to revisit a series near and dear to so many of us.
Then in part 2 of the episode, we're going to be discussing some of our most key favorite moments from the first 3 books of the series: Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, and Assassin's Blade, but it will include spoilers for the entire Throne of Glass series as we discuss our favorite foreshadowing moments from those books. We will continue this 4-part FanGuide series with episode 2, which will cover Heir of Fire and Queen of Shadows, episode 3, which will cover the tandem read Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn, and of course, episode 4, leaving it off with Kingdom of Ash.
If you would like today's episode outline to study before you read The Wicked and the Damned, as well as get access to our podcast episodes a day early and ad-free, please join our fan club at fantasyfangirls.com/fan club. The link is also in the show notes.
Thank you to our FFG team member, Kendra, who knows the Serpent and the Wolf book inside and out, for all of her contributions to this episode, as well as Brooke, our sodality extraordinaire, who is always fantastic with our recaps. And of course, a big thank you, as always, to our executive producer, aka our sanity manager, aka co-host of Fantasy Fan Fellas, Hayden, and to the author herself, Rebecca Robinson, for taking time to chat with us today.
We are very active on social media, so please be sure to follow us on Instagram and /or TikTok at Fantasy Fangirls Pod. And if you're watching this on YouTube, pretty please hit that subscribe button to keep following along.
While you're hitting buttons, go ahead and hit that 5-star button and write a little love note in the review section. It is one of the most important things that you can do, not just for this podcast, but for any podcasts you regularly listen to. And last, but certainly not least, do not forget to share this episode with your fellow readers, whether they love Serpent and the Wolf or if you're trying to convince them to read this marvelous book.
All right, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.